members here, Sam Angel, sitting right over here, and one of your neighbors, R.D. James, is also a member of the commission as well. First, let me thank the port, and Dan, thanks for lunch. The nourishment was much needed, and I appreciate that very much. Public safety is number one, and that's the key item that we're looking at, and we're looking at it from the whole systems approach. As it was mentioned, after the 1927 floods, Congress appropriated the funds for us to build a system in and around here from Cairo down south to put in a levee system that would not allow that type of flooding again since 1927, 1928 when the act was put together. The nation has invested about $13 billion into this program, and we've been putting the levees and flood walls together since that time frame. In that project, the Mississippi River Tributary projects, there are 4 floodways, and those floodways get operated when the river is at certain elevations. In this area, this floodway is operated at when the Cairo gauge is at 61 and rising, and I'll talk more about that in another minute. The next floodway down is at Bonnie Carey, and that Bonnie Carey is in Louisiana, and that gets operated when the water passing New Orleans reaches 1.25 million cubic feet per second. Another floodway is Moganza, again in Louisiana, and that gets operated if the water gets to 1.5 million cubic feet per second. So each one of these floodways have particular triggers, and we're working with that. Last night we hit a historic event. While you were all sleeping, the Cairo gauge went to 59.69. The previous high was at 59.5, and that was in 1937. So we are now at record highs off of the Cairo gauge. We had General Peabody here yesterday. He's from the Great Lakes and Ohio River Division, and he was working, keeping as much water from entering into the system as he could from the Kentucky and Barkley dams, and they've been taking about 1.5 feet off of the Cairo gauge in the last week. Because of this rainstorm and the one that's following behind it, his ability to store water is continuing to be being used up. And we also talked with our another member of the Mississippi River Commission, General McMahon. General McMahon is the commander of the Northwest Division, and he's holding back waters at Gavin's Point and Truman Dam as well. So between the three of us, we've been holding back waters so that we can control the crest here at Cairo. But with a lot of the rain that we have today and what's forecasted, a lot of those reservoirs are at their full stage, and in a few days we'll be having to evacuate some of those waters behind the dams. Right now we're looking to get to 60 on the Cairo gauge tonight, somewhere around midnight, and by tomorrow afternoon we should be at 60.5 on the Cairo gauge. We're looking for the National Weather Service forecast, which should be out at about 1:30. They're working with all of our hydrologists and scientists and providing a report that we should get out in the next couple of hours, and we'll see where we're looking at from that. So, from that perspective, the things that we're looking at is I'm looking at and on how to make the decision on the Birds Point, New Madrid, and whether to operate that project is one, stresses on the system, and we have stresses on the system at Cairo, Illinois. We have probably the largest boil that I've ever seen, and a number of folks are. Yesterday was considered that the system was degrading there. We brought a lot of volunteers and National Guardsmen there to help us ring that levee, and we've got that one under control. As you know, the mayor of Cairo has asked for a mandatory evacuation in that pretty concerned with that, that stress on the system. As we go further downriver, we look at Fulton County levees. We have a number of sand boils that are opening up there, and so we yesterday would consider it degrading. Colonel Reichling, your district commander, has got folks down there now trying to work those boils and get those under control. As we go further downstream, we've got an issue down in Mississippi, in a place called Buck Chute. It's on Eagle Lake, and we're working we're working a water berm down there as well. So the system's under a lot of stress, and it's something that you would expect when you're at the maximum force that you've designed a project for, and we are under unprecedented forces right now that's going on in the system. So as I mentioned, one, I'm looking at stresses on the system. Two, I'm looking at what we're doing at the Cairo gauge. As I mentioned, it's going to be at 60.5 tomorrow. We're looking for the weather forecast again. My scientists, engineers are working together to put that document out publicly, but it looks like it's going to continue to rise in the short term, and I'll wait for that report to come out. And then the third thing that we're looking at is safety of the crews. The crews that will have to operate this project, making sure that they can get to the project safely and do what they need to do to put the project into operation. So those are the three things that I'm looking at before making the decision to operate the project. Yesterday, I mentioned that the motor vessel Mississippi moved from Hickman, Kentucky, to its current location near Bergs Point. I took a decision briefing today from Colonel Reichling, and we've decided to put those barges that are carrying the slurry mix, give them be prepared to move at 1500 today. So Colonel Reichling and I will sit down and discuss again, get to a decision brief, and at 1500 today we'll decide whether to move them from their current locations up next to the levee. Now that is not the decision to operate their project. There are three other points before we get to that. So it's just the next step to move forward. Now the decision has not been made to move those, but we will be prepared to move at 1500 was the order I gave to Colonel Reichling at 11 o'clock. I just have to say how proud I am to see all of the volunteers that are out helping each other, helping us, the National Guards. It's when there's a difficult and challenging task that's in front of us, where we see us Americans raise our hands and move and volunteer and get into the flood fight. So I'm really happy to see so many people trying to assist. In the next phase, as was mentioned, is if we do have to operate or not operate it, how do we clean up afterwards, and how do we put things back together? Put together a number of teams to look at that approach. If we have to use the project or not, how do we put things back together and reconstitute where we're at, so we're ready to do this again. And so we put that under a number of different folks inside the division, and I'm calling this Operation Watershed. With that, I'll take questions. Questions? Yes, General.
Again, the 61 releases from the Corps, it said approaches 61 foot with a pressure to continue to rise. That's when you're able to make a decision. It seems like that's where we are.
Right now we're at we're not at 60. We're at 59, 59.69.
The weather forecast, the weather channel now, we all have access to whether the rain's not going to stop. That seems to be the tipping point.
There's three things that I'm looking for: stress on the system, the Cairo gauge at 61 and rising, and safety of the workforce.
So we're waiting at least until we get these forecasts in this afternoon over how high we're expecting water to get at Cairo before we see any type of decision. I guess the real question is 61 the